there's that nice announcement about that. So, I do not have a big presentation as part of this information session. I'll say a few introductory words, but really I'm sort of thinking of this as office hours, chance to answer questions for folks if you've got them about this exciting new program that we're launching. And let me just give some quick introductory words about that as we get going. We at the Council on Rural Development, for the last few years, we've been coordinating a program called the Climate Economy Model Communities Program. And really since like 2014 and 2015, we've been having a statewide conversation around the climate economy and doing a lot of convening, and both at the local level, but also at the statewide level about the climate economy. And most recently, in the last year, we, one of our core funding partners for our work is something called the Vermont Low Income Trust for Electricity. And we carried forward some funding from 2020 to 2021 from our V-Light support. And at the same time, the V-Light board was having some conversations around how they might support some small grants for Vermont organizations, town energy committees, and others who are interested in doing small climate and energy projects or big climate and energy projects where small grants might make a difference. And so that conversation led us to create this thing called the Climate Catalysts Innovation Grant Program. And I think an exciting element to this is that as we were having that conversation, VSCCU joined in the effort and is contributing $5,000 to this grant program for 2021. So we've got $20,000 to work with for this program for 2021, and have announced this grant round due in almost a little less than a month from now, July 22nd. And so, and I guess let me just sort of remind folks, as we think about what are we looking for, let's say, as we sort of promote this program and think about how we will make some selections, assuming that we've got some tough decisions to make, which I'm sure we will. And I just want to read, and I think folks, if you've looked at the materials, you've seen this, but I just want to sort of mention sort of what we're, the criteria or what we're looking for when we think about applications to this program. We're thinking about innovation. Is it something new or different? Like, is this something, I think that speaks for itself. Is it innovative? Is this something we haven't necessarily seen before? There are some types of projects that are, let's say there is a pretty well-trodden path and there's a pretty well-trodden financing path for certain types of projects. And I think what we're interested in is trying to think about what's new and different. Is it replicable? We're always thinking about how are we building models that extend beyond sort of one-offs. I do a lot of work with the Vermont Energy and Climate Action Network, where Vermont has this incredible infrastructure of town energy committees. And we're always thinking about where is the next project that is deployed in one community that then can be modeled in other communities. So that's one other lens that we'll be thinking about as we look at applications. Is this something that's really totally unique and feels like it could only happen one time, or is this something that could be a model for other places? Is there collaboration in the application, I would say, and by that I mean, are there some partners involved in the project? Is it a partnership across town line, let's say? Is it a multi-town, or is it maybe it's a partnership between a town and a school, or the town energy committee and the low-income housing provider or something like that? That isn't to say that a single entity who applies isn't eligible, but like I think in Vermont, we're always excited when we see those partnerships. That shows a broader impact, and it shows that multiple players are around the table in pulling something together. We use the term equitable in thinking about how we will review applications. And I guess, you can think of that in a few different ways. I think when we look at historically some of our programs around climate and energy, if we're honest about it, they tend to skew towards those who can afford to participate, right? Like if we think about the net metering solar program, let's say, or if we think about the way that programs tend to be structured for homeowners as opposed to renters. And so we certainly will have an eye towards sort of applications that at a minimum take that into account and hopefully work to address the equity question. How are we reaching those Vermonters who might not traditionally be reached with some of our existing programming? How are we building a project or a program that addresses the needs of those who have been historically marginalized in the state of Vermont? And then I guess two others. One is sort of this basic piece, which is what are the climate and energy implications of this project? And we don't expect a sort of precise metric in terms of like pounds of carbon or tons of carbon reduced over a period of time, but at least need to understand sort of what the climate and energy benefits of this project would be. And then finally, is there a leveraging? Like the support, we're not talking about a huge grant program here. The maximum size of the grants is $4,000. And so, and maybe a project actually fits into that bubble. Maybe there's a project that is within that, in that budget of 4,000 or less. But often a grant like this is one piece of a larger puzzle. And it's always helpful to understand how does this fit into that larger puzzle? How is this grant, how would this grant leverage other opportunities? And so that's just another piece. So we've sort of laid out that list right at the top of the application. And I think that's helpful as people think about how to assemble an application, how to build a narrative, really having an eye towards each of those pieces. And I wouldn't say it's essential. I'm not thinking of it as a checklist where you must do all of them, right? Because that's a pretty high bar, honestly. But I think, as we review these, we will be thinking about it through those lenses, through those criteria as we review applications. And so the stronger applications will check more of those boxes, I think. So I hope that's just helpful as an overview. I should, Lori, it occurs to me that I should sort of introduce you or give you a chance to introduce yourself as we get going, given that you're going to be a partner to me in reviewing these applications. I don't know if you want to just share with folks or introduce yourself to Jessica and Kevin here.
Sure. Hi, Jessica and Kevin. I'm not exactly sure. I see Kevin is from Brattleboro and Jessica looks like an intern. So yeah, I'm Lori Fielder, and I'm the V Green Program Director at VSCCU. So I've worked with John and with VNRC in various capacities over the years, and basically the work we do supports. This is why we're contributing to the project here, but it supports the whole idea of access to affordable financing for energy savings and projects that contribute to climate positive climate impact. So we have been a lender in the home energy loan program for many years. And that really we're the legacy lender. We've been there from the beginning, and we helped develop the program and the sort of the guardrails for that. And it started off as a pilot, sort of similar to what this is like, sort of let's just try it. Is this safe to try? Sure, let's get going. And the Department of Public Service started this venture, and for projects that were really around thermal efficiency, not so much renewables. And over the years, we adapted the program and the offerings, and we learned a lot. We got a lot of data, and we've helped probably thousands of Vermonters to be able to afford energy improvements in their home. And we have other programs too, both on the business and the consumer side. And really, our goal as a credit union is the circulation of the money that members bring. We're a member-owned financial cooperative, so it's all around circulating the money that is in the form of deposits and deploying it in the form of low-interest loans, particularly for projects that help members with basics, housing, food, energy, transportation. And that's our mission. And we've had an environmental mission statement that was adopted by the board of directors back in 2005. And part of what, it's interesting that when just hearing John describe what the criteria are, part of what really is the secret sauce to success in our minds is the relationship and partnership building. Really important to not just work by yourself in a vacuum, and leverage the strengths of our partners from VEIC. We have worked with V-Light before. V-Light was also a legacy they put funds towards the home energy loan pilot when it was first getting off the ground. So VEIC, many solar installers are partners. We work with lots of weatherization contractors, heat pump installers, really understanding what it is that they need to be able to offer it to their customers who are, in turn, become members of the credit union. So that recirculation of money, just generates economic development for our whole economy. That sector of our economy that's climate and energy is a growing segment, and it, great jobs. These are, well-paying positions that we want to support. We want to support our members in these types of ventures that they do. So I really love the criteria for the grant program, and also leveraging not just strengths, like for VEIC, that's Efficiency Vermont. They have a great customer service team that helps people understand, well, what energy improvements are right for my home. What does it make sense to do heat pumps first and then do weatherization? Or maybe it's the other way around. So we're lenders, so we let them do what they do best and help guide folks with those types of questions. And then we help them with the investment side. So yeah, I think this is great. We're super excited to partner on this project and hope that we can help generate some interest in getting communities or groups or individuals to feel like it's a safe space to put in an application, and don't let it be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get something out there so we can look at it. So really appreciate the opportunity to participate in the project.
That's a great message, Lori, to end on right there, which is like, I mean, we really tried to keep this application as accessible, as simple as possible, and our aspiration, our intention is to be flexible. There are sort of Vermonters of all stripes and all walks of life who are passionate about tackling climate change and who have ideas about how to do it. And I think our challenge is like getting the word out and helping them find their way to this opportunity. And but my hope is that when they do, they won't get turned away by an application that they feel like is overwhelming. So with that, maybe I'll just sort of pause and open it up to questions. And Jessica, I'm guessing that CEAC is Climate Economy Action Center over in Addison County, which is it's great to have you all there. That was an outgrowth of our work with the Model Communities program over in Middlebury. So nice to have you. So Kevin or Jessica, do you have any questions as you consider options? I'm happy to field any questions.
Just a note. Do you know potentially when the funds might become available to people as far as utilizing that purchasing power for the leverage aspect?
I mean, I would say really upon decision. Like once we make those awards, there's not sort of, I mean, I'll need to think carefully a little bit about process in terms of how to finalize something once we make a decision, but I don't expect that to take much time in terms of we're ready to go, I'd say. So, yeah. Other, you know, I don't, the interesting thing about a session like this is what I don't want to do is I don't want to prejudge. I don't want to sort of describe things in a way that might not be inclusive because we don't know what the ideas are that are out there. And I'm pretty excited to see what I expect will be a broad mix. Some stuff that we expect and a lot of stuff that we don't. And so like, while I'm tempted to go over some categories of potential projects, I'm going to resist that temptation because I think that starts to create a box that I actually don't really want to create. I mean, I would say generally, and I'm saying this to you, but I'm saying this more broadly because we're recording this, that like, I'm very much intend to be accessible and available to sort of answer questions as folks have them in terms of whether it's technical questions or just more general questions. I'm perfectly happy to do that over the course of the next month here. So,
is there an explicit limit for how many applications, let's say, an individual or a group could apply for?
That's a good question. I don't think we did not stipulate that, and I mean, I think we might have a decision on the back end about whether we would deliver more than one award to an entity, but I honestly don't. I like if someone wants to, it's almost like putting more tickets in the bucket. Like if they have multiple ideas and they feel like, well, let's see which one's going to be successful. I would be a little wary if there's a hope that they would receive multiple awards. I'm not sure we would do that, but I feel like more options to review and more ideas, it certainly serves our interest. And I would say the application is such that I could imagine folks doing that. Like if there's more than one idea, I think, again, the barrier to entry is designed to be pretty low. So Lori, I don't know if you have anything to add to that or any thoughts off the cuff.
Yeah, I think that was a perfect answer. You know, if you have something, if there's more than one, you can and put in for it. And then the committee will just have to determine if they would issue, depending on if kind of the pool of applicants that that we get, I think we'd have to, make that decision. But gosh, more ideas, the better.
Yeah, and particularly, I mean, we've talked already about partnerships. I think Lori emphasized that point. I could imagine a prime applicant with a different set of partners for different projects. Frankly, that's going to feel like almost like a distinct application to me, as opposed to sort of one application, I guess I would say. So.
I guess this question, thank you for that answer. I was thinking my role is more involved in multiple different community groups, so I didn't want there to be like, oh, Kevin's involved in some way in all of these, but coming from different angles. So that's perfect. Just wanted to clarify. And then since I have limited experience with municipalities, maybe either of you could provide some additional clarification for, like, depending, I guess it would depend on who I was helping apply for the grant, if it needs to go like before a select board because I think there's some weird things for select boards having to approve different grants that would be allocated for town stuff. Does that make sense?
Well, I think I understand what you're asking, and I almost think that that's a municipal question as opposed to a question to us, which is like, there are those internal controls that municipalities have, particularly when there are grants that have matching requirements or other implications. There's a lot of sensitivity around applications. And so, yes, I think we would trust that any municipal application is going through whatever internal process that they need to go through there, I guess.
Yeah,
and
that
again,
makes sense.
yeah, I don't know if Lori, you have anything further to add, and
Yeah, I don't. I think that's right. And of course, towns and municipalities are all pretty different in Vermont. They don't necessarily have exactly the same process. So yeah, just check with them to see how they want to, who has responsibility, or just make sure that passes muster with all of them.
Mm-hmm. You raise let's just play out a scenario, which is, let's say there's an application for a grant and there's an overall budget that's more substantial than the grant, and it's dependent on some municipal spending as well. I think an application is going to be stronger if the municipality is sort of behind that and part of that commitment, I guess. And so again, whatever process the municipality has to do that, if the municipality itself is submitting the application, I think our presumption is going to be that there's been some internal approval of that on the municipality's part. Other questions?
Jessica, please feel free to jump in at any time too. But the funds that will be granted, I'm assuming they're not going to be. I guess I don't know. Could you clarify that process a little bit? And if it is like we spend money and then we get it reimbursed through the grant funds, and how what the reporting aspects of potentially receiving a grant look like.
Well, let me say one thing at the outset, which is our intention is to work with applicants in terms of those applicants that that may not have a bank account. Like, I don't want that to preclude an application. I don't want to give any assurance that we're going to be able to work out those logistics, because that gets it can be complicated when there's not a sort of financial entity that's hosting and spending those dollars. I think our intention would be, rather than to reimburse for expense when we make a grant award, to then essentially write a check for that award rather than to reimburse for expenses, and then to ask for a report and it may be, we haven't set a period for that report. Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it, but we would ask for a report that certainly sort of documents how the dollars were spent, and also the outcomes. But again, our intention is to really keep that simple and not, look, this is not of the scale of award that justifies major sort of a major bureaucratic exercise in terms of the reporting side of things. And honestly, although I will say, like, look, part of this is about the replicability, the model that it can be shared with others. So I think our report will be designed to try to gather some of those stories and such that we can share them. And of course, you're not limited to the report. The reality is if somebody's doing great work and it's a story, I think there's a common interest in sharing that story. And so that that story sharing could go beyond just whatever the reporting requirement is, and be more of a back and forth with a partner to figure out how we do that most effectively.
Perfect. Yeah, this feels a little bit more personal in that aspect, where there's the closeness of partnership and the back and forth. So that's great.
Yep. Yeah. I'm getting the sense from Jessica that mostly, Jessica, you're just monitoring, but feel free to chime in with a question if you got one. And Kevin, I don't know. Yeah. Do you have others?
Just, I guess the last thing that I can think of would be, has the outreach and marketing for these funds, it'd be easier for me to ask if they have gone than you list, I'm assuming, but thinking of my fellow ECO-AmeriCorps cohort folks, I think they would probably have a lot of say, and I can certainly reach out that way, but and then utilizing AmeriCorps as a whole. I think, John, you've heard me say it, but I'll say it again, that AmeriCorps could be even stronger utilized across Vermont, and accessing some of these things and programs, I think, since it is an innovative and a replicable goal, would be a neat to share this, since it is kind of that community conversation, less of a super rigorous goal here.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I appreciate that. And I think I will follow up on that. I was off last week, and so there's a set of outreach that is yet to do in terms of spreading the word on this. But I think AmeriCorps folks is a great idea. That's excellent. Yeah. Well, I don't think we need to belabor things. I really appreciate the interest. I know there's more interest out there because I'm hearing little murmurs here and there. And like I say, there's more. I fully expect this is going to be competitive. We've already got some applications in, and we're really excited. I mean, part of the context that I think Lori and I both alluded to is we know there are Vermonters doing this work in a bunch of different shapes and forms all over the state. And we are excited to find those partners where a small investment like this could make a difference. And that's really what this grant program is all about. So really looking forward to looking over those applications and making some tough but exciting decisions as we move forward. So
I'd love to see what that list comes out like. I think some grants like show who's applied and that kind of stuff. I think that might be a fun exercise, especially in my kind of role as a sustainability coordinator type person.
That's good feedback. Thanks. Yes, I share that. Like sometimes there are little nuggets from those that it's like, oh, there's an idea there, or there's a relationship that I should cultivate. Somebody's working on something similar. So that's a great suggestion. Well, wonderful. Appreciate it. Lori, thanks for joining us. Kevin, Jessica, really appreciate you being on. And like I say, if there are further questions, just know that I'm available to answer those. You can find my information at VCRD's website, vtrural.org. So thanks, everybody, and enjoy your Thursday.
Thanks, John. Bye, everybody.